Welcome to the Take Action podcast, where we empower communication partners to feel confident with AAC. I am Lauren Greenleaf, a certified speech-language pathologist with nearly a decade of experience in AAC. Join us weekly as we dive into all of the aspects of AAC and hear from communication partners just like you who are successfully integrating AAC into their daily lives. Whether you are an SLP, a parent, an educator, or any other communication partner, you are absolutely in the right place if you are ready to take actionable steps towards AAC success today. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Take Action podcast. This week, I am here with Melissa, who is a mom to an AAC user and also an SLP. And Melissa, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
I'm really excited to chat because you and I know each other a little bit on a personal level too, and I've had the joy of getting to meet your son. And I'm really excited to hear about your whole journey. So that's kind of where we're going to start. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, both professionally and personally?
Yeah. So I've been an SLP for 14 years now, been through every kind of different setting of working, school, clinic, hospital, and I've experienced AAC since 2010 of its different platforms and seeing the progression of it. But about 2015, I had started a position at an elementary school when we lived in Colorado. This was before kids, and had a few students that were on devices, and I had experience but they were a little bit further along and different needs. So I had to quickly jump in and learn about more AAC and academics versus the clinic setting. And that same year, AACtion just happened to be in Denver. And so I went to AACtion, took every course that I could to learn more about AAC. And it helped. My son was born back in 2018. And we started noticing some differences in his development, like about 15, 16 months, like not quite walking as strong and was delayed with talking. So we did like the Bright Beginnings or early intervention through the county, and he qualified for speech. We started speech therapy in person the week before the COVID shutdown. So we had to hop into the virtual world, and it worked for us. So he was about 18 months at the time, and he was doing well, and he would start gaining some words and sounds, but then he kind of would lose them, what we were working on, when we would move on. So I worked very closely with our AAC consultant at the time through our school district, and she was like, hey, try AAC with him. And she happened to have a device that one of her private clients didn't need anymore, and she said to try it. And this was in the midst of when we were going to be moving back to Ohio. And we tried it. We got him set up, and he was like exploring it and everything. And so that was probably when he was about 2.5 that he kind of took to it and was requesting like goldfish and crackers. So like just basic snacks with it. And exploring it. But then we moved to Ohio in summer of 2021. And we kind of had to figure out speech services. Honestly, we weren't quite really staying consistent with the AAC stuff, but that's where some of my own personal experience has come into play. And then he started preschool. When he turned 3, through our school district that we were living at the time. And they were trying AAC and said that he was starting to pick up on it. So we pulled out the other device again and started from there. He is a very multimodal communicator now. We've gone through so many challenges and successes over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Wow. That's really awesome. I love hearing your whole story, but all in a couple minutes, because you guys have had a lot of changes and ups and downs. And when you throw COVID in the mix, that's like its own entity.
yes.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I do appreciate that you shared with us, though, that you kind of stopped using AAC for a little bit. because I think that's a reality. Like life kind of gets in the way sometimes. COVID happened, you moved, like that was a lot of stuff going on. What I think is important that you highlighted is when you noticed that it would benefit him again and you had the time and the space to do it again, you guys really dove back into it and utilize it a lot.
Mm-hmm. And like over the past few years, we've gotten autism diagnosis. He also has childhood apraxia of speech. So he's definitely gaining more verbal speech, but he also at the same time is still learning language and is needing to rely on his AAC device. He uses touch chat, but also we've taught him signs. He uses more of some manual signs for things that we've taught him within routines, but he's definitely progressing with his AAC with our amazing speech language pathologist that we work with.
That is awesome. Okay, so kind of from there, you are a speech therapist. You do have experience with AAC. How did that support you guys in your journey?
I mean, again, I had some experience a few years before he needed it and before he was born too. I kind of knew the implementation of it within the classroom, but I didn't know the full evaluation side. And also being a parent, I had my professional brain on, but also at the same time, I had my parent brain on. And I would just kind of be like, yep, here you go. Like he would point to something or would give him choices, but I wouldn't follow up with the AAC. So like I had to put myself into the shoes of my parents and basically have self-talks with myself of being like, okay, and also talks with our SLPs that being like, hey, here are some challenges that are going on. And I had to do a lot of my own research and following up on how to build it in with routines at home. But being a parent of an AAC user has helped me to give parents a different perspective.
Yeah.
And also my coworkers that I've had with my different positions over the past 3 years. And I've gotten to learn from you, Lauren.
Thanks.
I love following with your podcast since you've started this. I mean, another big challenge, though, being a professional and a parent is trying to coach my husband.
Yeah.
Because I'm his wife. I'm Quinn's mom. Like, I can give that perspective, but like at the same time, like we have to maintain our relationship with each other. So that's been like a big challenge of having that professional knowledge, but at the same time of having it that personal level. So that's been a lot of thought processes that I've had to go through.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I didn't really like consider that in this conversation when we were setting up what we were going to even talk about. But I can see that even just like with my husband and I'm like, I do this every day, honey. Like maybe we should try this or maybe we should do this. But presenting it in a way that's not necessarily, I'm the expert, I know all, I can do all, but approaching it from a team perspective of like, you're my husband and this is our child too, and we need to figure it out together. Really unique perspective there. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've had our ups and downs of challenges at home, and that's why always like learning ourselves, but also relying on our professionals to help be that like outside brain and body to give us the problem solving that we need to do at home to support Quinn's communication needs, be it AAC or just his overall multimodal communication needs.
Yeah, I hear that from SLP parents a lot, that kids are in speech, that have kids in speech, that they really need that outside perspective to start navigating certain situations, because it's hard when you're in it. You can't always see that big picture.
Mm-hmm.
So would implementation kind of have been like the hardest part when you guys started implementing at home, like figuring out genuinely how to incorporate it into your day?
Honestly, that is the biggest challenge that any parent comes across of like, when do I implement it? How do I implement? How do I model? And like, it's a matter of learning to take those baby steps. And it's not like you're putting the device in front of the child and they're automatically going to have this knowledge and pulling out the words. And like from my experience and from stories I've heard, some kids have done that. But like it depends on the age of the child. I mean, at the time, Quinn was 2.5 to 3 years old when we really had that early development. So like we're kind of starting from square one with like just one word expression, especially for those highly preferred items. And as he learned kind of like what that communication intent was for, like, oh, I push goldfish and then I get goldfish, kind of that cause effect, and learning that this communication opportunity can have these outcomes with like, I say something, I get something. And also trying to just learn myself. And I teach parents. I've coached parents over the many years. And now I kind of look back and I'm like, oh, that was not the best way to coach. And like, I've had to talk to coworkers about like how, like, hey, this kid is not getting their own, like, they're not picking up on the device. Like, they're interested, but they're not picking up on the device. And so it's like going back to like, what is motivating for the child? And like, that's where we had to start with Quinn, was what is the motivation? And we're still doing that because, I mean, we're working on sentence expansion with him, but if he's not interested in the activity, and we've learned that very quickly within our speech sessions, if he does not want to engage in the activity, the language is not going to come out.
Yeah. I think that's such an important distinction. And it's something ends up coming up a lot on the podcast and just in general, but it really is, that motivation piece is so, so crucial. Would you be willing to share maybe a couple ways that you guys do incorporate it at home, to give some parents some ideas, or therapists some ideas of what to share with their parents?
Yeah, I mean, when we're just even within routines, like when we're sitting down to dinner, we'll give him choices of what he would like for dinner, because again, he's got autism and like he's not the pickiest eater, but he can still be picky-ish, like some other kids can be at 6 years old. But we do give him choices of like, what would you like for dinner, hot dog or mac and cheese? And he will let us know. Or for just modeling within routines, okay, we're gonna go brush your teeth, and modeling what we're doing next, or even just our schedule. Like one thing that we do when we run errands is like, I'll be like, okay, we're going to go to Aldi, then Costco, then Target. And he will restate that to me. So like the more that you can build in with routines, the language, and modeling and giving wait time is the biggest advice that I would give. But start small.
Yes.
Either starting with a word or routine, both from parents and SLPs. Like, it's going to take time for coaching for the SLPs, picking language that a family can do within routine on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like snack time, knowing how to coach the parents, and with that modeling and that wait time and modeling without expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, tell me goldfish. So not doing it in a testing manner either. So, I mean, that's where we've had the biggest success. Sometimes when we're sitting down to watch a preferred show, like I might bring up, he loves watching about ocean animals. So we watch shows about ocean animals and bring up his ocean animal page, and we sit there and label the animals. And because he likes to watch some of the same episodes or videos over and over, when he kind of gets into a preferred topic, I'll be like, ooh, what's going to be coming up next? After like, I know what the video is about, and making it as like exciting as possible. And he gets to tell me what animal is going to be coming up next. And I'll still try to throw in like actions and describing words. And he loves to say things are big. So it's a matter of motivation, routines are the biggest recommendations for both parents and SLPs.
I really like that. I actually just had a recent conversation with a group of parents related to obviously AAC use at home. And that was my big recommendation was if you leave here with anything today, I want you to pick one time of your day and one thing that you can say during that day and start there, with the preface that it should be something that happens consistently, a routine, and it should be calm. Everybody should be calm during it. It's not helpful to try to get your kid to communicate while they're fighting you to brush their teeth or whatever they might be fighting you on.
Correct. And going with that fighting thing, like we're trying to really work on Quinn's identifying of emotions right now. And we've been working on it for the past 6 months to a year, just even exposing it to him. And most of the time, it is a trigger for him.
Okay.
So like we just try to do it when he's regulated. And sometimes we just have to verbally state it. And sometimes we can do it in the moment because we do get behaviors that come up, especially when he's frustrated. But we're trying to provide those opportunities to give him the words to express his frustration. Like, what are you frustrated about? And trying to figure out what is the reason for his communication struggles.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing that I have with parents, and that we're trying to figure out, like, okay, yes, you have this big feeling right now, but let's figure out, like, do you want something different? Are you upset about something? And with kids with sensory needs, if you don't know the trigger, it's a matter of racking through. And that's where the parents and the professionals working together to figure out what those lagging skills of communication are, like, so that you can at least try to give them a word or even a phrase to be able to communicate. Some other things that we've done to kind of help with communication just around the house is we still do pictures. Okay. Like, I've done screenshots of his food pages that go on this pantry, or drink pages go on the fridge, or just even pictures around the house of things that can help with communication.
Yeah. I like that. That's totally that full multimodal communication, and really kind of goes to that idea that your AAC system is really more than just that physical device that you're carrying around. You're accessing so many other things, and that device isn't always around when you're standing in front of the pantry, but now he still has a way to tell you guys exactly what he needs without everybody running around the house trying to find the device. I really like that. So backing up a little bit, because this is one question that kind of gets asked a lot, and you mentioned it earlier, is this idea of you already really knew most of what he was trying to tell you and everything that he was trying to tell you. Literally every parent I've ever talked to has said that, like, well, we know what he wants. How did you kind of take that idea of, I know what he wants, but I still need to use the device? Like, what worked for you to kind of bridge that gap of, like, we got to do both?
Essentially the mental process of being like, we need to provide these communication opportunities, giving choices. Like, okay, instead of just him handing you the snack and you're like, oh, you need help opening it, but like modeling with our signs or with his device, whatever was accessible at the time. Again, like I said, putting up pictures of like the homepage or the fringe vocabulary of routines around the house. Because again, the device might have gone from the living room to the kitchen and you're already in the kitchen, but he wanted to get that snack. Instead of being like, okay, go get your device. And he's like getting frustrated. But if you had a low-tech picture, screenshot, or board within the kitchen, you already have that communication opportunity right there so that you're able to stay within the routine. But that's something that we've had to do, is pausing and being like, okay, we know you want this action or item. Okay, let's provide that opportunity to be like, okay, you need? And he'll be like, help. And being able to just stop and think, like, what word or choices can I provide right now to make that communication opportunity? And also the modeling on the device. Like, he was just in those emerging times a few years ago and learning how to navigate his device, knowing what words to use during those times. We would have to provide those models. And I mean, again, building it in with our routine. Like, if we were working on just him asking for help, we would focus on finding those times within our routines to model help, and like making sure that we were consistent with it so that we weren't falling back into our old habit.
Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful. It's like you said, it's a mindset shift. It's that understanding that, like, I do know, but I need to provide those opportunities. And I also like to share with families, and not meant to be fearful in any way, shape, or form, but but the caretakers at school don't necessarily know. So when you build those opportunities at home, then those words can be used outside of home too.
Correct. And like I've mentioned, that Quinn has apraxia of speech, and we do some manual signs, but his manual signs are approximations because either he learned them closer to 2 when he didn't have the fine motor skills.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried refining them over the years to make them closer to what the actual sign is. But because he has that motor memory of whatever he learned to make for a sign, we know what he is signing. But as you had just said, his teachers might not know what it is, or like even our family members. Like, again, his verbal approximations too, like, he's gotten better with it, but for the past 6 months, he would say eek for eat. Again, we knew what it was. We would try working on the verbal correct production, but like my mom would be like, what does eek mean? And so like we've had to work on that skill of clarifying what he means with the device too. And that's like a higher level concept that we've been having to work on, kind of going back to how we implement it. That's like just another level to it of like, yes, we're modeling, but him being able to default to another mode of communication with his device to clarify. And he's become a pro at it of, okay, you don't understand me with this verbal or sign.
Mm-hmm.
He knows to go to his device and to clarify.
That's awesome. What a wonderful, wonderful skill to have. And as a parent, you can get more comfortable with your AAC device. You can start to teach that repair strategy more often. It's a little hard when you don't know the device yourself either. So learn the device first, but then move towards teaching that repair stuff, because it's really powerful for kids. Because I can only imagine how frustrated he was when grandma was like, what's eek? What's eek?
Yeah.
So some general tips. I know we've talked about a few, but do you want to put some succinct tips together for SLPs and parents?
Yeah. For parents, don't be afraid if your SLP brings up the idea of implementing AAC. Express your concerns, because there are a lot of different myths and information out there. And Google is a great thing, but it's a scary thing. So for parents, be open to the opportunities of AAC. Communicate what your wishes are for your child's communication needs. Talking about what their preferences are, what your high needs are with communication. Now, when it comes to the SLPs, early intervention is key. The earlier that you explore AAC options, be it pictures, core boards, or speech generating devices, the more that you can explore those options with families and kids, the parents are going to be more open to the idea if they are very hesitant. But you're going to give the kids that door to communicate whatever they need, especially self-advocacy. These also for AAC, going beyond requesting and labeling. We have so many communication functions, and that's also for parents, is again, going to self-advocacy, even if it's saying no, like that's probably the biggest word for self-advocacy. Looking at, can they just comment, or even responding to yes, no questions. So those are my biggest tips for SLPs and parents, is early intervention, and don't be afraid to try, because you never know if the child is going to take to it or not.
Yeah, I really, really like those. I really like those. And I'm a big fan of self-advocacy. It's something that every child from a very, very young age should have access to, because I think it's going to make their lives much, much better in the future. Okay, so wrapping up, I would love to hear what has been the most rewarding part about having AAC for your family.
Just being able to give Quinn a voice. I mean, yes, he's gaining a verbal voice, but again, he's only really starting to merge with it, but it's given him the opportunity to communicate beyond just labeling, being able to just decrease his communication frustration. We have plenty of days that we are struggling with communication, but being able to give him that ability to know how to communicate himself is what has just been the most rewarding. And just seeing how he communicates and how his little brain works. Because again, he's just starting to put some phrases together. Like this morning, he was like, "Grandma, watch Dory." And I was like, "Grandma, watch Dory?" Like there was no context to it. I was like, "Did you watch Dory with Grandma?" "Yeah."
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was just out of the blue that he put that together. So he does make us sometimes think, which keeps us on our toes. But like just being able to see his communication and language grow has been one of the biggest things for us.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I've had a chance to witness him communicating and sharing with others. And it's really cool on my end to see too, just knowing you guys. And I think what's so cool about that last story that you just showed us, like, there is no way you could have anticipated that he wanted to tell you he watched Dory with Grandma. So like it genuinely gave him his ability to independently share his own thoughts and feelings about things.
Yeah. I mean, he will randomly recall things, and it'll be like 2 to 4 word combinations that he puts together, because again, it's not complete phrases, but so you're like, wait, how does this all go together? And so, I mean, that's where AAC comes into play. Is it's not going to be the magic wand to give a child communication right away. It does take time and effort from everybody, from family and professionals. And the more that we can work together to support the child, it is magical to see those light bulbs go off.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you and hearing the whole story behind you guys and your AAC journey.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Lauren.
Hey, everyone. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with Melissa. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I've had a chance to meet her personally and see her son and watch a little bit of their AAC journey. And it's just really cool to see. And she talked so much about how to incorporate parents and how to incorporate AAC into your daily lives and daily routines. And I think that conversation is really, really powerful for a lot of you who are listening. So for my take action step today, I would really love you to reflect on your home life or school life, depending on where you see your AAC user, and come up with an activity that you can start doing tomorrow to support your AAC user. And the key here is to keep it a routine activity. It's something you already do. It's not something that you need to create. Find something that's already a part of your everyday and find out how you can add AAC into that. I like to tell families and professionals, pick one activity, pick 2 or 3 things you're going to model during that activity, and then keep doing it every day. Keep it consistent, keep it simple, keep it fun, and you are well on your way to starting to use that AAC device even more. So thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next week on the Take Action podcast.